Well, many people either struggle with anger issues personally or we know someone who does. It can leave a path of destruction behind us unless we learn how to deal with anger in a healthy way. We are honored to have Stephen Arterburn join us today from Carmel, Indiana. He's a best-selling author, chairman of New Life Ministries, host of the top-ranked Christian counseling talk show, New Life Live, and the author of 100 Days to Freedom from Anger. Welcome to Bridge City News, Stephen. So great to have you on today.
Thanks, Jeanette. Great to be with you and all the people that watch.
Thank you. So, Stephen, it seems that perhaps today people are dealing with anger more than ever before. Do you think that the political environment and isolation during the pandemic increased this level of anger that people seem to now be experiencing?
I think one of the things that happens when the world changes, like inflation, gas prices, war, things like that, that people get uneasy, or you could say very afraid. And in their fear, they become angry that things aren't the same, or they feel out of control. And it's just the go-to emotion. It's very hard for somebody to tell you, I am scared to death. But they will show that they're angry over something. And you have to look at, well, where is the real source of that anger? And when we can get down to that, because a lot of times we're being triggered. Something that happened earlier in our lives is being triggered. And if we can resolve that sometimes, then we can finally resolve the anger. But it is a tough time to be alive. And, we often say, our kids won't listen to us. Well, I guarantee you they're watching us. And what we do is being internalized by them. And that you're either building connection with them in a horrifically disconnected world, or you're kind of pushing them away. And we really need, as parents, to be bringing them closer. And then we need to be closer. If you're married, you need to be closer to your spouse if we're going to get through this with the least amount of damage possible.
Yeah, you're hearing this so much, especially kids being disconnected these days. And they just spend their lives online too, connecting with others, but maybe not in such a healthy way.
Oh, definitely. And we essentially, when we give a child a phone and we don't monitor it and filter it and all of that, we're essentially turning them over to a culture that is very different than the values that many of us have. And you just have to really see that as a totally different world that not only does not support some of your values, but is pushing and promoting the other values right in your kid's face. And they don't know how to deal with that. Everything that they see is against you. Parents are stupid. Parents don't know. They're old-fashioned. And if you don't sit down with them and help them understand why all of those messages are the opposite of the message that they give them, it's really going to be hard on them.
Absolutely. Now, Stephen, you've written that peace is a scarce commodity in these turbulent times. So what's the link between anger and lack of peace in one's life?
Yeah, well, if you're angry, you certainly are not at peace. And there's a process you can go through that can get you to that place of peace. So I'll just run that through you. Well, first of all, you have to stop long enough to figure out what you're, quote unquote, really angry about. And, maybe you're just furious at your husband and criticize him all the time. But actually, your husband is wearing the head of your father between his shoulders because you've got unresolved stuff with your dad. So if you could see it that way, then now we can go back to dad and realize, okay, I need to understand why dad was that way. I need to see him as a human being, not as my expectation as a perfect dad. If I can do that, then I can accept him better. Now I can forgive him. He may be long dead. He can't do anything about it. Now I can forgive him. And I can do this. This is really important. I can grieve that he never gave me what I wanted or what I really needed from a dad. I can grieve that loss. Now I can start to move on without dragging dad wherever I am. There are a lot of different sources of anger other than just a dad. But if I could see what that is and then talk about that to somebody and accept responsibility that I need to deal with that versus spew the consequences all over everybody else, I'm going to get to a place where I'm much more peaceful. Getting rid of every bit of bitterness and anger is such a favor to yourself. And, one of the blessings of my life is that I'm not an angry person. In fact, the other day I raised my voice at one of my kids and they started laughing at me because it's just not me. And I said, okay, well, I tried. But that's where you want to be, is that your go-to isn't always a reaction. It isn't always anger. When kids are troubled, they're begging for you to reach for them, not do what a lot of people do. Well, this is my chance for a teachable moment, and I'm going to tell them all about the truth that they've already rejected. So when we abandon that typical response and say, well, I'm going to make this about them. Tell me what you're going through. How did you end up feeling this way? I'm here for you. Now we've got a chance to really make a difference in their lives versus doing a stupid thing and talking about a concept. You can do that later. You should have done that in the very beginning, but now it's time to connect with their heart and win their trust. That's more important than you feeling good because you told them the truth. And I'm not down on the truth. I believe in that. But there's a time and a place for everything.
That's great advice, especially for those of us with kids. Absolutely. Now, Stephen, is there a connection between anger and maybe control or lack of control?
Well, I think people use anger to control others because they don't have, well, first of all, when you're trying to control other people, you totally remove any kind of relationship that can be authentic and free. You're just in control. When you try to criticize or control or cure or change somebody, you are wasting so much of your energy on something that cannot be done. But anger is a pretty common tool. It's a bad tool that people use to try to control others. And so I try to let people know that they're dealing with something bigger than I look like, stronger than I really am, so that they won't come against me. Well, that defensive, controlling anger, what that's doing is preventing you from ever relating to the person in a way that might reveal to you what you're really afraid of. I remember talking to this pastor in a group I was doing, and the wife said, "Oh my goodness, he's so angry at these kids and he's just destroying our relationship with the kids." And I said to him, well, let me ask you a question. What are you so afraid of? He just burst into tears. And what he was afraid of is that he was going to lose his kids, trying to control them the way his father lost him. He was producing the exact same effect, but in using a different method. And once he saw that, then he was able to see that if you're afraid of losing your kids, loving, connecting, noticing them, affirming them, heck of a lot better than being angry when they don't do something that you think they, quote unquote, should be doing. So we need to look deeper. A lot of people say, I don't want to look inside or that. Well, if you enjoy the superficial life, great. But I'm telling you, a lot of people would be better off, especially you, if you would try to take a look at some of the source causes of your discomfort and the expression of some unhealthy emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Now, I think some of us maybe won't ever or don't ever deal properly with our anger issues. So what happens to unresolved anger? I know before you were mentioning how it can manifest in really negative ways.
Well, it makes you sick is the one thing that it does. And we know a lot of people that they have high blood pressure because they're on alert all the time. They're on defense all the time, and everything is a horrifically stressful time for them. And when they are communicating in a relationship, it's so uncomfortable for them because they don't want to sense any kind of vulnerability. So you can have high blood pressure, you can have heart problems, all sorts of things can happen. I know I went through a time early in life. I think this is how I learned my lesson, and I ended up with ulcerative colitis while I was in college, and it was two things: some unresolved emotion and the secrecy around that, and this was just the physiological effect. But also, our minds are very, very fragile sometimes. And if you just keep feeding your brain with anger, bitterness, every kind of reason to reject people, you just get emotionally unhealthy, unbalanced. And so if that's the way you are, what do you do? Well, you just need to get some help. Getting help isn't a weakness, it's a strength. And there are a lot of great therapists. I tell people all the time, I really think God has someone just for you. And it might be a psychiatrist who could prescribe the right medication to help you get through this. So, and I really believe that.
Mm-hmm. Therapy definitely works. Are there any healthy ways to release our anger?
Well, sure. I mean, if you sit down right now and get a piece of paper and start, over the past, have found myself angry in these situations. I have tended to be angry when somebody has done this. And you start to look at where are the sources, where has this come? Is there a pattern over the past? Now you sit down and you share that with somebody that's wise. You get their insight, their input about that. And then here's the insight that I think changes the world. You convince yourself that it's going to be okay because everything that you were angry about and worried about, you don't even know what it is now. It all worked out. You're still here. It became okay. So based on past history, we know it's going to be okay. You're going to find a way. And when we feel confident that we're competent to get through this time, that we can make it, we can figure things out, then maybe we're not so in need of control, we're not so reactionary, and we're not so angry. So that's one way to get started on resolving it. The goal in life, I wrote this in a book called Take Your Life Back, is to stop reacting to things like with anger and start responding to people. And that's a different way of living. And a lot of people, that's all reaction, no response.
We're almost out of time here, Stephen, but great advice from you. I really love the pen and paper trick. I know I'm a journaler. I like to journal, so I think that's great. It also would probably require us to be very self-aware that maybe people aren't even aware how angry that they are.
Hey, if you're confused, ask somebody, do you see me as an angry person? Put down the gun or the stick first, and then ask them if they see you as an angry person, and hopefully they'll tell you what they see.
Exactly. Thanks so much for being with us today, Stephen. Great advice.
Yeah. God bless you.
Stephen Arterburn is the author of 100 Days to Freedom from Anger. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.